The studio hummed with anticipation, a polished blend of lights, cameras, and the quiet murmurs of a live panel. Suddenly, the rhythm fractured. Kanye West leaned forward, voice cutting through the hum like a blade. "Are you really listening to the people or just playing politics?" His words carried the weight of celebrity audacity, seasoned with the expectation of being heard without challenge. Cameras immediately tightened, catching every flicker of surprise across the panel. The lighting seemed sharper now, every shadow accentuating the sudden tension. Microphones captured the subtle intake of breath from producers and assistants alike. The room was alive with electricity, an intersection of fame, power, and unspoken expectations. Jasmine Crockett remained still. Her eyes, calm and unwavering, became the anchor amid the chaos. The panelists' smiles froze mid-gesture, their polite nods replaced by silent curiosity. Every second stretched longer than the last, the studio falling into a quiet charged with anticipation. Kanye's expression shifted subtly, a smirk half hidden beneath focus. A challenge thrown without malice, yet heavy with implication. He expected movement, a defensive tilt, hesitation. But Jasmine's poise didn't falter. Her presence alone recalibrated the room. Every glance, every tilt of her head signaled that she had heard him, processed him, and would respond on her own terms. The audience watching through their screens sensed the imbalance instantly. Celebrity versus stateswoman, showmanship versus substance. The stakes were no longer just words, they were identity, authenticity, and authority under scrutiny. And then, with the quiet confidence of someone who had navigated far higher stakes long before the cameras ever rolled, Jasmine leaned in slightly, her calm gaze meeting Kanye's. The world waited, collectively holding its breath, knowing that what came next could shatter expectations, break the rhythm of celebrity audacity, and redefine the conversation. The tension was unbearable, charged with the knowledge that in that room, in that split second, a moment of reckoning was imminent. Every viewer felt it, the calm before the storm, the moment when intellect prepares to meet spectacle head-on. But her next words would leave even the world's most outspoken rapper speechless. To understand the weight of that fleeting moment, one must step back. The segment had begun with the promise of dialogue, a conversation about social justice, representation, and the responsibilities of those in positions of influence. But beneath the polished veneer of television, fault lines were already etched. This wasn't merely a debate. It was a collision of worlds, a test of who gets to define credibility and whose voice carries unquestioned authority. For years, women of color navigating the corridors of power have encountered interruptions, veiled skepticism, and microaggressions cloaked as critique. The same logic that elevated charm over substance, fame over experience, has repeatedly attempted to undermine voices like Jasmine Crockett's. Public platforms, meant to showcase ideas, often become stages for proving dominance rather than facilitating understanding. The systemic weight of this history hovered invisibly over the studio that day, magnifying every syllable, every glance, every pause. Kanye West entered that space carrying the gravitas of celebrity influence. His audacity had been honed in boardrooms, studios, and stages where words can move markets, stir culture, or ignite controversy with a single tweet. Yet celebrity, for all its power, carries its own blind spots. Charisma alone often masks the absence of lived accountability. When Kanye questioned Jasmine, he wasn't just interrupting a statement, he was wielding cultural capital, testing her composure against the backdrop of public fascination and expectation. Jasmine's response, in contrast, was grounded. Every word she had prepared for years of advocacy, courtroom battles, and legislative service coalesced in that moment. She represented not image but principle, not spectacle but steadfast dedication. The contrast could not have been starker. One side wielding the amplified voice of fame, the other commanding authority forged through service, experience, and earned respect. The stakes extended beyond the broadcast. Every viewer watching could sense the tension between privilege and accountability, celebrity and substance, perception and reality. A misstep could be spun into virality, a hesitation amplified as weakness. Yet every pause Jasmine took was intentional, measured, a silent assertion that this was not a contest of bravado. It was a demonstration of how leadership grounded in integrity moves under pressure. And in that charged atmosphere, the familiar dynamics of power, the expectation that fame overshadows merit. That spectacle eclipses principle. We're about to collide with a force neither Kanye nor the audience had fully anticipated. The room, already tense, seemed to anticipate the inevitable reckoning. Aware that this confrontation would ripple far beyond the studio walls, into conversations about respect, authority, and the value of lived experience over celebrity influence. And what came next didn't just shock the studio. It redefined the power dynamic on national television. Kanye West's ascent reads like a modern myth. Born in Atlanta, raised in Chicago, he transformed from a producer and underground visionary into a global cultural phenomenon. Every beat he crafted, every lyric he wrote, carved a path not only in music history but in public consciousness. He became more than an artist. He became a brand, a symbol, a provocateur whose influence extended beyond charts into fashion, politics, and social commentary. Yet with every rise comes a complexity, a duality that few dare to examine closely. From the beginning, Kanye's persona oscillated between brilliance and unpredictability. His critiques of systemic injustice, his speeches on inequality, and his moments of unapologetic advocacy garnered admiration. He could illuminate issues of race, wealth, and cultural neglect with the same ease he used to produce a platinum album. Audiences were drawn to the confidence in his voice, the conviction in his performances, the sense that he alone could articulate truths many were unwilling to speak. His charisma was magnetic, commanding attention even in crowded rooms of experts, media, and politicians. Yet that magnetism carries shadows. Public critiques often highlight contradictions. A man advocating social reform while flaunting personal extravagance, calling out hypocrisy while generating headlines for erratic behavior. Some saw Kanye as fearless, willing to confront uncomfortable truths. Others perceived him as performative, self-centered, and inconsistent, using his platform to elevate himself above the very causes he claimed to champion. Every outburst, every controversial tweet, every high-profile interruption added to a narrative where talent and ego were inseparable, and where charm became a tool of dominance rather than dialogue. In debates and interviews, Kanye's presence is commanding. His smile, half posed and half knowing, signals he believes he already controls the conversation. A single gesture, a hand raised, a pause before a laugh, can reset the room's energy. He doesn't just speak. He directs, framing questions that appear casual but are loaded with implication. His confidence borders on authority, creating the illusion that disagreement is disruption, that challenge is discomfort to be managed rather than opportunity for discourse. In these moments, he is both performer and gatekeeper, curating not just what is said but what is believed possible. Critics argue that this charisma, when unchecked, becomes a form of soft dominance. It isn't malice that shapes the perception of Kanye as a villain in debates. It is the quiet power of reputation and influence. His very presence sets a tone. Interruptions become permissible, skepticism is masked as curiosity, and any misstep from the other party feels amplified because of the cultural weight he carries. To oppose him requires more than knowledge. It demands resilience, precision, and an unshakable grasp of one's own authority. Yet even within this portrayal, Kanye remains human, layered, and compelling. His contradictions, outspoken advocacy paired with impulsive conduct, sincere engagement paired with attention-seeking theatrics, render him a figure audiences love to analyze. He is both admired and critiqued, feared and celebrated, making him the perfect foil for Jasmine Crockett, whose own authority emerges not from fame, but earned trust and principle. Across from him, Jasmine wasn't intimidated. She was ready to turn reputation into accountability. Jasmine Crockett's story begins far from the glare of studio lights or celebrity interviews. Raised in a working-class neighborhood, she learned early that life demands more than talent. It demands persistence, grit, and a steadfast sense of justice. Her parents, committed to hard work and community, instilled in her a belief that every voice matters, even when the world seems determined to ignore it. From the earliest days, Jasmine saw the divide between promise and opportunity, and she vowed to bridge it, not for applause, but for tangible change. Her path to law school was neither smooth nor assured. She juggled part-time jobs, studied long into the night, and navigated the systemic barriers that confront young women of color at every turn. There were professors who doubted her readiness, peers who underestimated her, and moments when the weight of expectation pressed harder than any exam. Yet with each challenge, Jasmine refined her patience and precision. She learned that knowledge alone wasn't enough. Composure, clarity, and the courage to speak truth under pressure were equally essential. In the courtroom, Jasmine found her voice and her proving ground. She represented communities overlooked by the system, tenants fighting for housing rights, families denied basic legal protections, and neighborhoods seeking accountability from officials who promised reform but delivered neglect. Each case was a lesson in resilience. When victories came, they were sweet, earned through meticulous preparation and unwavering dedication. When setbacks arrived, they were crucibles, sharpening her resolve. Colleagues recall her late nights, drafting motions that challenged convention, reading every precedent, every statute, anticipating every counter-argument because for Jasmine, preparation was a form of respect, for herself and for the people she represented. Outside the courtroom, her activism took root in the streets, schools, and community centers. Jasmine mentored young people, organized local initiatives, and fought against policies that sought to silence marginalized voices. Her approach was not performative. It was painstaking, consistent, and grounded in reality. Whether she was sitting with a grieving family, addressing a city council, or listening to a student's concerns, she carried herself with a blend of empathy and authority that drew trust without demanding it. Her authenticity became her armor. She did not need to project confidence because she had lived it. Despite the external pressures, Jasmine remained unfazed by criticism or mockery. Online trolls, naysayers, and political opponents often attempted to diminish her achievements. Yet she treated every slight as a mirror, reflecting what she needed to address in strategy, not temperament. Her composure in the face of provocation became a defining trait, one that would later serve her in the most high-profile confrontations, where poise could disarm arrogance more effectively than volume ever could. Her rise to political office was the culmination of years spent building credibility in places that rarely captured headlines. Every campaign stop, town hall, and debate was informed by lived experience, a deep understanding of policy, and an unshakable moral compass. Colleagues and constituents alike noted that Jasmine's authority was earned, not inherited, not granted by celebrity endorsement, not bought through optics but forged in the daily work of accountability and advocacy. She represented a generation demanding substance over spectacle, commitment over charisma, and consistency over flash. It was this foundation of rigorous preparation, lived advocacy, and unwavering integrity that would define her interactions on national stages. When others relied on reputation, celebrity, or bluster, Jasmine relied on clarity, evidence, and the quiet force of experience. Her presence carried the weight of every courtroom victory, every community meeting, every painstakingly researched policy brief. It was a presence that did not need to perform authority. It exuded it naturally, like gravity drawing all attention toward what truly matters. So when Kanye leaned in with a provocative smirk, expecting a rehearsed response or a softened counter, Jasmine met him with unshakable poise, the kind only earned over a lifetime. The studio lights felt sharper than ever, casting a glare on the polished panels and cameras that tracked every movement. Kanye West leaned forward, his tone deceptively casual, threading charm through a pointed question. You talk about accountability, but are you really making a difference or just playing the part? The words hung in the air like a challenge, a test designed to rattle someone unprepared. Around the table, the panelists shifted uneasily, exchanging subtle glances, sensing that this was no ordinary exchange. Jasmine Crockett remained still. Her gaze never wavered from Kanye, her posture unyielding. Each pause she took was intentional, a demonstration that she was not about to be rushed or intimidated. When she finally spoke, it was measured, articulate, and deliberate, a precise balance of data, empathy, and lived experience. She referenced community initiatives, legislative achievements, and tangible policy wins, each point punctuated with a calm confidence that contrasted sharply with the celebrity's performative assertiveness. The room seemed to adjust around her. The pace slowed, the air thickened, and every word weighed heavier than before. Kanye tried again, layering charisma with subtle provocation, attempting to reclaim the upper hand. He interrupted, Twice, maybe 3 times, each attempt to derail her met with quiet, unshakable authority. Jasmine absorbed each interjection with an almost surgical focus, redirecting the conversation back to facts, principles, and the lived realities that celebrity rhetoric could not overshadow. Every calm rebuttal highlighted the imbalance. The louder the interruption, the stronger her presence became. The tension between spectacle and substance intensified. Cameras captured the micro-expressions, the brief flickers of frustration, the momentary blink, the slight shift in posture. Panelists leaned forward, some scribbling notes, others biting lips to suppress commentary. The audience watching at home, sensing the stakes, felt the electricity through the screen. The debate had evolved from questions and answers to a silent duel of authority versus performance, patience versus impulse. Jasmine's responses carried more than logic. They carried history, preparation, and accountability. She never raised her voice, yet each word landed with impact. The measured cadence of her speech forced the studio to follow her rhythm, not Kanye's. With every sentence, she dismantled assumptions about what leadership looks like, exposing the superficiality that often accompanies celebrity interventions in serious discussions. The contrast between her grounded approach and his oscillating assertiveness was stark. One voice rooted in lived experience, the other in charm and expectation. Minutes stretched like hours. The audience could almost feel the shift. What began as a clash of personalities had become a showcase of principle. Every interruption by Kanye underscored Jasmine's control. Every sharp question amplified her clarity. She transformed pressure into performance, not for show but as proof that composure, knowledge, and integrity are forms of undeniable strength. And then, in a single, unforgettable line, she flipped the script entirely. One sentence, concise yet profound, that halted the exchange mid-flow, leaving cameras frozen, the panel silent, and the celebrity before her momentarily speechless. It was a pivot that no one saw coming, yet felt inevitable in hindsight, a crystallization of years of preparation, struggle, and conviction. The studio held its breath, and viewers at home leaned closer, sensing that this moment would echo far beyond the broadcast. Jasmine Crockett waited. Just a heartbeat longer than expected. The pause was deliberate, almost imperceptible. Yet it carried a weight that rippled across the studio. Kanye West had leaned in, ready with another rhetorical flourish, another celebrity-infused jab meant to reclaim control. The moment stretched. The air seemed denser, heavier, and then with a calm that belied the electric tension, Jasmine spoke. "Sacrifice isn't measured by who's watching," she said, her tone precise, unwavering, and quietly commanding. The simplicity of the statement belied its force. It was not a shout. It was not a spectacle. It was truth distilled into a few words, enough to slice through the bravado and expose the gap between performance and principle. In the studio, time seemed to slow. Cameras lingered on her face, capturing the flicker of certainty, the steadfast gaze that refused to yield. Panelists blinked, some glancing off-screen as though searching for a lifeline in the silence. Producers shifted, unsure how to recalibrate. Even Kanye, usually so quick to respond, faltered. His practiced composure, built over decades of commanding stages and headlines, wavered as he processed the clarity of her response. The crowd, both live and remote, reacted in kind. Viewers leaned closer to their screens, some holding their breath, others whispering or murmuring in disbelief. The clip, though still in its early moments, began to hum with viral potential. Social media timelines lit up almost instantly. Twitter notifications pinged, Instagram clips circulated, TikTok recreations and reaction videos sprang into existence. Memes formed in real time, highlighting her poise, her words, and the stunned expressions that followed. Each reaction reinforced the same undeniable truth. This was not just a celebrity exchange. This was a lesson in integrity, preparation, and calm authority. Online viewers shared comments like, "Finally, someone speaking truth under pressure," and "This is how leadership looks." Clips were stitched into compilations with dramatic music, replayed hundreds of times and dissected in think pieces and live commentaries. The moment became a masterclass in strategy. Pause, listen, respond with precision. In the studio, the silence stretched for a beat longer than expected. The usual hum of debate, the side chatter, the laughter, the rehearsed corrections was absent. It was replaced with a tangible respect, even if unspoken. Each person in that room recognized the pivot. The dynamic had shifted irreversibly. The hero's calm had not only countered the challenge but redefined the conversation. Each interruption, each attempt at dominance by Kanye, now only highlighted the steadfast authority of Jasmine Crockett. Her words carried layers: a rebuke of performative virtue, a reminder of accountability, and an affirmation that real work is done out of duty, not for applause. The statement resonated beyond the cameras, beyond the lights, beyond the live audience. It spoke to generations accustomed to seeing brilliance interrupted or overlooked. It was a reminder that composure, knowledge, and preparation are forms of power that no celebrity status can overshadow. And yet the real story wasn't confined to that moment. As the broadcast continued, clips began to circulate, shared by viewers eager to witness the exchange. Within minutes, hashtags emerged: Crockett counterstrike, mic drop moment, leadership, unseen. The viral engine kicked into gear. Clips flooded feeds, replayed endlessly, commented upon, remixed, and analyzed. Reactions varied from astonishment to admiration, but one thread ran through all of them: the recognition of a moment that transcended celebrity spectacle. Commentators weighed in, some attempting to defend Kanye's intent, others praising Jasmine's mastery. Influencers, political analysts, and ordinary viewers alike dissected every syllable, every pause, every subtle inflection. The debate transformed from a live broadcast into a national conversation, a shared cultural touchpoint. Moments like these are rare. They capture a perfect alignment of preparation, principle, and opportunity. Back in the studio, the aftermath lingered. Cameras continued to roll, capturing the subtle shifts. Kanye searching for footing, panelists recalibrating, producers nodding silently, realizing the segment had become historic. Jasmine remained composed, her poise unbroken. She had not raised her voice, she had not sought applause. She had only spoken the truth with precision and clarity, and the impact was seismic. And as the clip spread from phone to phone, from feed to feed, the collective realization hit. This wasn't just a moment of personal victory. It was a cultural reset. It was a lesson broadcast in high definition, replayed in infinite loops, a reminder that intellect and integrity will always outlast spectacle. Her calm had become contagious, inspiring countless viewers to reflect, to comment, to share, and to believe in the quiet power of prepared conviction. The studio air eventually returned to its usual hum. Lights dimmed slightly and the broadcast continued. Yet the reverberations of that statement would not fade with the end of the segment. Social media timelines were ablaze, news outlets were rewriting recaps, and conversations that had begun with casual curiosity had transformed into debates about leadership, accountability, and authenticity. But the viral storm wasn't confined to the studio. It was just beginning to sweep across the nation, reaching phones, screens, and conversations in ways that no script or camera angle could have fully anticipated. This was the moment where a single line crystallized months of preparation, years of service, and a lifetime of resilience into a ripple that would not stop. The clip went live, and the internet erupted like a spark igniting dry kindling. Within minutes, hashtags trended globally. Condor Crockett clapback on Condor Kanye vs Crockett, leadership redefined. Screens everywhere buzzed with notifications as viewers shared, reposted, and debated the moment. The immediacy of the reaction underscored something extraordinary. This wasn't just another celebrity encounter. It was a collision of celebrity, accountability, and authenticity that demanded attention. On Twitter, timelines flooded with short clips looping Jasmine's measured, piercing response. Users dissected every pause, every inflection, every flicker of her calm. Comments poured in. "This is how authority looks without arrogance." Jasmine just schooled Kanye without raising her voice. And finally, a lesson in true leadership for a generation used to spectacle. Threads expanded into multi-page conversations, with debates about integrity, image, and responsibility dominating the discourse. Instagram Reels and TikTok remixes exploded, blending studio audio with dramatic music, text overlays, and exaggerated reactions for comedic or emotional effect. Memes flourished, contrasting Kanye's flustered expression with Jasmine's serene poise. Even fan accounts and cultural commentators jumped in, repurposing the clip to highlight broader themes. authenticity over fame, preparation over improvisation, and substance over spectacle. Celebrities weighed in next. Some defended Kanye's approach, framing it as playful provocation. Others celebrated Jasmine's composure as a cultural reset, proof that discipline and principle could shine brighter than star power. Morning shows replayed the segment repeatedly, dissecting it with analysts and political experts. Pundits debated, was this disrespect or overdue accountability? Viewers, especially younger audiences, began quoting her lines in classrooms, community groups, and forums. The exchange had transformed from a live broadcast into a shared cultural moment, one that blurred the boundaries between entertainment, politics, and social consciousness. Newsrooms picked up the story as well. Headlines emphasized the clash and the viral response. Jasmine Crockett silences Kanye West on live TV. Cultural moment sparks national conversation on power and respect. Leadership redefined. What millennials and Gen Z are learning from this exchange. Articles examined the deeper context. Systemic issues women of color face in public spaces, the weight of celebrity influence, and the contrast between lived experience and image activism. The discussion expanded into podcasts, online panels, and live streams. Analysts connected the viral moment to broader societal trends. The hunger for authenticity, the pushback against performative virtue, and the power of calm, reasoned authority in high-pressure scenarios. Each reaction amplified the narrative. Jasmine's composure wasn't just remarkable, it was instructive. Her example became a template for engagement, demonstrating that knowledge, preparation, and poise can eclipse flash and fame. Even casual viewers felt compelled to comment. Families shared the clip at dinner tables. Students debated it in classrooms. Community forums posted the moment as a lesson in leadership. The exchange transcended its initial broadcast, embedding itself into daily conversations. Social media feeds were ablaze, not with scandal or celebrity antics alone, but with reflections on accountability, respect, and the courage to maintain composure in the face of provocation. By the time the sun had set, the ripple effects were unmistakable. Every platform echoed the same sentiment. A single composed response had become a movement. Reactions, recreations, memes, and think pieces continued to proliferate. The studio moment, brief yet potent, had transformed into a cultural touchstone. It was clear that this was more than a viral clip. It was a lens through which audiences examined leadership, integrity, and the balance of power between celebrity and lived experience. And amidst the online chaos, one undeniable truth began to emerge. Calm authority, grounded in preparation and principle, could disrupt spectacle, refocus narratives, and inspire a collective rethinking of who deserves attention and respect in public discourse. This was the moment where a single line rippled far beyond the studio, igniting a national conversation that showed how one measured voice could resonate louder than celebrity clamor ever could. In the aftermath of the viral exchange, the moment with Jasmine Crockett crystallized into something larger than the broadcast itself. Her calm, deliberate response to Kanye West's interruption became emblematic of principle prevailing over ego, a striking example that true influence does not demand theatrics or grandstanding. It earns respect through consistency, integrity, and composure. The world had witnessed a collision of celebrity bravado and grounded authority, and the lesson resonated far beyond the studio lights. Jasmine's poise illustrated that leadership is not measured in volume, but in clarity. While Kanye's words carried the weight of fame and cultural influence, it was her quiet, unshaken logic that shifted the energy in the room. Viewers saw how true authority can dismantle pretense without ever raising its voice. In that silence after her reply, the audience recognized the power of preparation, authenticity, and lived experience. Her calm was not passive, it was deliberate, a demonstration that dignity and reason can cut through spectacle more sharply than any loud retort. The moral of the moment extended into broader life lessons. Integrity, for example, is revealed when the spotlight is brightest, when provocation tempts rashness, when the world expects a reaction. Jasmine's example became a modern parable. One does not need to escalate, imitate aggression, or yield to performative displays to assert influence. Humility, often misunderstood as weakness, emerged as strength. By listening, considering, and responding with precision, she transformed a potentially volatile confrontation into a teachable, enduring moment. Audiences, particularly young viewers and aspiring leaders, began dissecting her approach. Social media threads and discussion forums highlighted three pillars: preparation, patience, and poise. Those who had felt marginalized or dismissed saw in Jasmine a template for asserting oneself without surrendering authenticity. It was a masterclass in translating knowledge and principle into visible, credible power. Unlike flash or fame, these qualities persist. They inspire action, trust, and loyalty across communities. Her response also reframed how society perceives confrontation in public discourse. Too often, the loudest or most famous voice dominates the narrative. Jasmine's intervention reminded everyone that substance always carries weight, that insight earned from experience and commitment resonates more than charisma alone. Her calm became a form of resistance, against spectacle, against impatience, against the notion that visibility equals authority. The implications went beyond celebrity politics. For women, particularly women of color, who face disproportionate scrutiny in leadership spaces, Jasmine's moment underscored the power of grounded resilience. It illustrated that preparation and principle are shields against dismissal and mockery, that true leadership is reinforced by consistency and courage, not by immediate applause. As the conversation continued across social media, classrooms and newsrooms, the narrative shifted. People reflected not on who interrupted whom, but on the example of integrity in action. Jasmine's calm authority prompted a re-examination of values. Respect, fairness, humility, and accountability became the focal points of the dialogue. Her moment was no longer a viral clip. It was a lesson in leadership accessible to anyone willing to observe, learn, and emulate. Because when audacity meets authenticity, only one voice carries forward, one grounded in principle, unshaken by spectacle, and powerful not because it shouts, but because it resonates. Jasmine Crockett's example endures, a reminder that the quiet, steadfast voice of reason often leaves the deepest imprint on history, culture, and collective conscience. The studio fell silent in the wake of Jasmine Crockett's words. Kanye West, the provocateur, known for commanding attention and bending narratives, was left momentarily speechless. Panelists glanced at each other, unsure how to respond. Cameras lingered, capturing the rare stillness that followed a moment of undeniable clarity. In that pause, the tension of the debate, the weight of celebrity influence, and the gravity of authentic leadership all converged. Jasmine's calm had done what spectacle never could. It commanded respect without a shout, and asserted authority without aggression. As she rose from her chair, her gaze steady and composed, the studio buzzed around her. Producers whispered, reporters murmured, and viewers at home replayed the moment across social media feeds. The clip was already spreading like wildfire, but more than virality, it carried a lesson: integrity over ego, substance over spectacle, principle over performance. Jasmine walked off the set, leaving behind more than a stunned audience. She left a cultural imprint, a reminder that true power doesn't demand validation. It earns it. Now it's time to take that lesson further. Share this story, because every time integrity outshines ego, another barrier of silence falls. Let your voice amplify those who refuse to be muted, who confront arrogance with composure, and who transform conflict into clarity. Subscribe to this channel to stay connected with stories that matter, moments that inspire, and figures who redefine leadership with courage and grace. Stand with those who speak truth boldly, and let the ripple of principled action spread beyond the screen. Because when dignity leads, the world listens, and every voice that rises with conviction changes the conversation for everyone watching.